Good morning and welcome to Mobile Device Manager Plus training program. I hope I'm audible and you're able to view the presentation. Please confirm by commenting on chat. Now that I have received a few confirmations, let me start off. I am Harshita Sharma, Product Specialist from Mobile Device Manager Plus, and I will be your trainer for today. This is a 2-week training program that helps us understand the various features and capabilities of Mobile Device Manager Plus. And we are in week 2 today. In the previous week, we discussed about device enrollment and provisioning, where we saw the various enrollment techniques that are available to bring devices under management. We also saw how we can apply corporate configurations like Wi-Fi, VPN, and email to our managed devices. In case you missed the previous training session, you can view a recording of the same on the link given below the table. So without any further ado, let's start off with our training agenda. We will start off with the overview of Mobile Device Manager Plus, where we will be covering the product architecture and the various prerequisites that are required for managing our mobile devices. We will then be talking about application management that involves installing, uninstalling, and updating our devices with the apps. We will then move on to kiosk mode that helps us lock corporate devices to specific apps. We will then be talking about how to track and remotely troubleshoot corporate devices. The next topic would be content management, which involves securely sharing, viewing, and saving documents on our devices. The next topic would be device security and various security commands that help us keep our devices and data safe. This will be followed by a few scenarios and their solutions. In case you have any questions, please don't hesitate to post them on chat. We have an expert panel who will answer these questions immediately. These questions will then be discussed at the end of the training for the benefit of other users. So let's start off with the overview of Mobile Device Manager Plus. These are the supported operating systems of Mobile Device Manager Plus. We support iOS, Android, and Windows operating systems. It is available as an add-on to Desktop Central, which is ManageEngine's unified endpoint management solution. We are also a standalone on-premises product and on cloud. So let's have a look at the product architecture. There are 3 main components that make the product architecture. The first one is the server, the notification services, and the devices to be managed. The server uses these notification services like APNS, GCM, and WNS to wake these devices. These devices then contact the server for tasks and information that is required. Since the devices that we are managing are mobile, the server must be reachable at all times. And that is why we recommend you to NAT your internal IP address to a public IP address. Also, if you're worried about security and do not wish to expose your server to the internet, we also allow you to configure a forwarding server. This forwarding server acts as an intermediary between the server and the internet and is the one that is exposed. If you're using the cloud version of Mobile Device Manager Plus, you do not need to worry about any of these settings. As already mentioned, for the communication between the devices and the Mobile Device Manager Plus server, a few ports need to be opened. For secure communication between the devices and the Mobile Device Manager Plus server, the inbound port 9383 should be opened. These are the other ports that are required for smooth communication. Remember that some of these ports are applicable only for the on-premises version. So how exactly does MDM manage its mobile devices? So in the case of iOS and Windows operating systems, we leverage the native MDM client that is present on the devices. Whereas in the case of Android devices, we need to download an MEMDM app into these devices. This means that any Android device that we are managing must have this MDM app present on it. So now that we have understood the product architecture and the prerequisites that are required, we can move on with the first topic of today, which is application management. We will start off with installing and managing business apps. So let's assume I'm the IT administrator of an organization which has a predominantly mobile-only workforce. This means that most of the tasks in my organization are performed on mobile devices. Therefore, as an IT administrator, it becomes my duty to ensure that all of these apps are present in the mobile devices and remain up to date at all times. And for this, I will be making use of Mobile Device Manager Plus. So how does app management with Mobile Device Manager Plus work? The first thing that we have to do is create an app repository. This app repository can contain both the store apps as well as enterprise apps. Store apps are the ones that are available for public download on both Play Store and App Store, whereas enterprise apps are specific to organizations and are not available for public download. Once we have created the app repository on the MDM server, our next step would be the distribution of these apps to our devices. The distribution of the apps are taken care by the MDM server. The installation of the store apps is performed through the respective stores, whereas the installation of the MDM enterprise apps is taken care by the MDM server. Now that we have understood how app management works, let me show you how you can perform each of these steps using our console. So we log into our console using our credentials and click on the Device Management tab. This tab has all the device management related functionalities like app management, remote control, content management, and others. So in my case, I will be clicking on app repository to view the list of apps that I have already downloaded on my repository. So to add a new app to my repository, I will be clicking on the Add Apps option here. As you can see, we have an option to add both the store apps as well as enterprise apps for various operating systems. In my case here, I will be adding an App Store app. So I click on App Store app here and I enter the name of the app. So the app that I'll be entering now will be Zoho Creator. So as you can see here, we are getting a list of apps available with this name. So the MDM server contacts the App Store and gets all the apps that are relevant to that name. So here I have found the app that I want and I'm going to click on it. So as you can see, the bundle identifier and the Apple Store ID gets automatically pre-filled. If you're not based in the US and you wish to change the region to search for the required app, you can click on Change Region and select the appropriate region available. Next, we will be talking about app policies. So we can also apply these app policies when these apps are being distributed. So the first one is that we remove the app on MDM profile removal. What this does is when a device becomes unmanaged, this app will get automatically removed from the device. Since these apps are making use of corporate data, we need to ensure that there is no backup of this data anywhere except on the device. We can also apply a few app configurations when these apps are being distributed to the devices. So this can be done by uploading an XML file which has to be provisioned by the app developer. So once you have made all the required changes, I will click on Save to add this app to my repository. Click OK. As you can see, this app has been added to my repository here. So once I've added the app to my repository, the next step is to distribute this app to my devices. So I will click on Groups and Devices. Here I have a list of all the groups that are there in my organization. And if I move over to the Devices tabs, I have a list of all the devices I have enrolled in my organization. So since this was an App Store app, I will select the iOS device to which I want to distribute this app. So once I've selected it, under Actions, I will click on Distribute Apps. Here I have the list of apps that can be distributed to this particular device. In case you have a large number of apps available here, You can make use of the filters on the left-hand side to filter them out. Also, you can use the search bar to search for those apps. So once you've selected the app that you want to distribute, please pay attention to this distribution option. Here, we have an option to add the app to the app catalog. What this does is on the MDM app on the device, there is an app catalog option where this app will get added to, and the user must complete the installation process from there. We also have an option which talks about install app automatically. I will be coming back to this particular option in some time. So once you have selected all your options, click on select to distribute this app to the device. So if you want to see the status of the distribution, you can go and click on the device name, and under the apps, select and see all the apps that have been distributed to this particular device and the various status of their execution. So now, as I already told you, that the user must complete the app installation. So let's go back to our devices and see how that is done. So as you can see in the screenshots, we will have to click on the MEMDM app and click on the app catalog option to view all the apps that have been distributed to this particular device. So as you can see in the second step, we have the Zoho creator with an install button next to it. Once we click on this install, we will be prompted to enter our iTunes credentials. So once I have provided my iTunes credentials here, I can click on OK to initiate the installation. So once the installation is completed, the app will be in the installed state. So now that we have seen this method, we need to ensure that every device must be provisioned with an iTunes account. Also, we have seen that some amount of user intervention is required to complete the app installation. So in most organizations, the end users are non-technical people, and there might be a case where as an IT administrator, I need to explain to them the steps that they have to perform to complete the app installation. Also, each app has to be distributed to multiple devices. Here, I cannot go around provisioning each device with an iTunes account. And keeping all of these things in mind, Mobile Device Manager Plus allows us to automate our app installation. So for the case of iOS devices, we will be using the Volume Purchase Program or VPP to automate our app installation. Whereas in the case of Android devices, we make use of Play for Work. So apart from app installation, what are the added benefits of configuring these two portals? The first thing is that it allows us to build our own app repository. This app repository contains only the IT approved apps, which can be both the store apps as well as enterprise apps. Additionally, we can control our app updates and also restrict users from installing any other apps from the store. So let's start off with the Apple Volume Purchase Program. So what are the prerequisites that need to be met if you're planning to use Volume Purchase Program? The first is that you need to create an account with Apple VPP. The second is that the devices must be supervised. Supervision of devices can be performed either using Apple DEP or the Apple Configurator method of enrollment that we had discussed in the previous session. So this is how Volume Purchase Program works. The first step that you need to perform is to integrate the VPP portal with the MDM server. Once you have done that, your next step would be to purchase or approve apps on this portal. What this does is it will add these apps automatically to our MDM server's app repository. Once I have added them to my app repository, I can continue with my app distribution as I had done before and see that the apps get silently installed on my devices. So now that we have seen how it works, let me show you how you can perform each of these steps on our console. So for this, you will have to log in to your Volume Purchase Program account using your credentials. Here you will see that you can purchase apps for both education and business. So in my case, I will be using the business portal. So once I click on business, I will have this screen that appears. So now I have to download a VPP token that I will be uploading on my console. So to do that, I will click on the organizational details and on the drop down, select account summary. Once that is done, I will be taken to a page which has the download token button. So once I click on that, I will download a S token for this VPP portal. So now this token has to be uploaded back on my console. So I will go back to my console and click on app repository. And under iOS VPP distribution, I have to go back and upload it. I have already configured a VPP token here, so I will be using another console to show you the steps. So this is my other console, and I'll click on configure now. So here I have an option to upload the VPP token. So I'm going to choose the file that I had just downloaded and upload it here. Once I've opened it, I need to ensure that the app installation type is selected as without Apple ID to ensure silent installation of these apps. The token that I have just downloaded will expire in a year's time, and I need to provide the details of the IT admin who will take care of this renewal process. So I'm going to give their credentials now and click on save. So this token gets uploaded successfully on this portal. So as you can see here, I have entered my credentials. So my next step would be to purchase the apps from my repository. So I will go back to the volume purchase programs portal and click on search. Here I will be entering Zoho CRM as the app that I want to download. Once I click on search, I will have an option with all the available apps. So once I have got the app that I want selected, I can click on it. So when I'm adding an app to my repository, I need to add a number of licenses for this particular app. So let's say I want to distribute this app to 100 devices. I will have to purchase 100 licenses for this particular app. But before I purchase this license, I need to scroll down on the same page and check if this app is device assignable. This step is required if you want to silently install this particular app. So once you have checked that, you can add the required amount of quantity of licenses that you want to add to your repository and click on review order. Once you have reviewed your order, you can go ahead and place this order. This order is now complete. So once I've completed this order, the VPP portal and the MDM server syncs once in a day. And at that time, these apps will get added to my repository. But in case I want to add these apps immediately, I can go to my console and perform a sync option. So under apps, if I click on sync apps and click on sync VPP apps, I'll be able to sync these apps to my repository. Once I have done that, you will be able to see that these apps have been added to my repository. So as you can see, Zoho CRM has been added. So since we had purchased 200 licenses, I will show you the license stat available here. So we have the option to check how many available we have and how many we had purchased in the beginning. So once I have added this app to my repository, I can go ahead and distribute this app to multiple devices at the same time. So I will go to groups and devices and click on the sales department. So this is the group to which I want to distribute this app. So here I can go and click on action and click on distribute apps. So as you see, Zoho Creator and Zoho CRM app is available for me to distribute. This is the step where I will be choosing the option install app automatically to ensure that the silent installation of the app is performed. So once I click on select, this app gets distributed to the sales department of my organization. So let me show you what happens on the device end now. On the device, as you can see, the installation gets initiated and completed without any user intervention. Here are a few recommendations from our team that will help you make app distribution hassle-free. So the first thing is that the device needs to be connected to the internet for app distribution. So if you're trying to distribute an app to the devices, ensure that it is connected to the internet Otherwise, the app distribution will function only when the device connects to it. Also, distribute apps over 150 MB only when the device is connected to the Wi-Fi. Since Apple does not allow the users to download such apps on the user's data plan. So, my next question is, how can you control app updates? So, we all know that apps receive frequent updates that bring in new features and bug fixes. So, but these bug fixes or new features may not function the way we want it to in our organization. And that is why, as an IT administrator, I need to first test all of these updates before I deploy it to my organization's devices. So, there are a few prerequisites that will be needed to control these app updates. The first thing is that the app must be purchased using VPP and should be device assignable, which we had checked before. Also, as an IT administrator, I will be the one forcing these critical updates to my devices. So let me show you how you can do that. So when you were on the app repository, you would have noticed a banner on top that spoke about the number of app updates that are available. So as you can see, I have one app that has an update available. So I can click on this banner to view which app has an update. Once I've seen the app, I can click on the name of the app to see which devices it has been distributed to. So it has been distributed to one device and I will be updating it. So I click on update all and I will be installing this app update automatically on my device. So the user does not need to perform any step to install this particular app. Once I click on update, this app gets updated automatically. Since in my case, I had this app distributed only to one device, I could perform this update immediately. But if you have the app distributed to multiple devices, we recommend you to distribute it on one device, test it, and then distribute it to all the other devices in your organization. So this ends our VPP section of today, and we will be moving on to Google Play for Work now. So Google Play for Work is very similar to VPP, and we have the same prerequisite here also. So here also we have to create an account for Google Play for Work. So how does Play for Work work? So we need to integrate our Play for Work portal with our MDM server. The next step would be to purchase and approve apps on this portal again. And once that is done, they get added to our app repository automatically. The next step is to distribute these apps to the devices and see that they get installed silently on my devices. So now I will be showing you how you can configure these steps. So I'll be going back to this other console that I was working on and click on Android for Work in the app repository section. So here we have two options. One where we can register using G Suite and the other where we can register without. So in case your organization has a G Suite account, you can go ahead and register with that. Otherwise, you can use any Google account to register with Android for Work. So in this case, I will be registering without G Suite. But remember, there will be absolutely no difference in the number of features that you have available in both cases. So I click on register without G Suite and click on configure now. This will redirect me to the Google's Android for Work portal here. So now I can sign in with my credentials, and once I have done that, I have to enter my organization's name and also ensure that the EMM provider is selected as ManageEngine EMM. I will then read and agree to all the terms and conditions that have been placed. Once I click on confirm, my registration will get completed. Once this is done, my next step would be to add my apps to the repository. But before that, we'll have to see if the integration has been completed without any problem. So we can go back to our console and under app repository, click on Android for Work and check if all the details are available. So we have our details available here without any problem. So we can go ahead and purchase our apps. So I'll go for Play for Work and enter the app details. Here also, I will be adding a Zoho CRM app. So once I do that, I will search for this app and select it. Here, we will just be approving the app for download in my devices. So here we don't have the hassle of licenses. We can distribute this apps to as many devices as we want. So once I click on approve, these are the permissions that this app requires when it is being added to a device. I can click on approve and approve this particular app. So next, again, similar to VPP, this app will get added only during the sync cycle. So I will go to apps and sync my repository again. So I'm going to sync my Play Store apps. So as the apps are being synced, I can see if my app has been added. So as you can see, the Zoho CRM has been added here. So the next step here is to distribute this app to my devices. So I can go back to groups and devices again and select the group to which I want to add my device app to. So I'll select the group and under action, click on distribute apps. So I will select the app that I want to distribute and click on install app automatically. Once this is done, this app gets deployed to all of these devices. So what happens on the device end? So on the device end, first of all, a work account gets created when a new app is being distributed. I will be talking to you more about the importance of this work account in some time. So once this work account has been added, the Zoho CRM app gets installed automatically. So as you can see, the installation has been completed in the fourth step. So once this app has been added, you will be able to see that this app will be donated by a briefcase symbol. This briefcase symbol denotes that this app has been added to my work account. And these are the list of permissions that this app requires. So let me talk to you about these permissions now. So when we added this app to our repository, when we click on the name of the app, we will be able to view a little more detail about it. So here we have a tab which says permissions. So these are the permissions that are required by this app. I can go and modify whether these permissions should be performed by the user or whether I will choose to allow or deny these permissions. So in this case, I will be allowing the first three and leaving the last two as user controlled. Once I click on save, these app permissions will get modified, and this is what you are seeing on this screen. So as you can see, these two have been provided permanent access and the rest of them are left to the user to decide whether he wants to give permission or not. So the third topic is, what if I also have in-house apps? Do I need a VPP or Play for Work account for silent installation? In the case of enterprise apps, our own enterprise app repository is more than enough to silently install these apps. But we have a few prerequisites even in this case. In the case of iOS devices, they must be supervised. And in the case of Android, they must either be provisioned as a device owner or must be Samsung devices. So let me show you how you can use our app repository to silently distribute enterprise apps. So we'll go back to our app repository, and as we had added the store app, here we will be adding an Android enterprise app. So we have an option to provide the name of this app here. So I'm giving Z Delivery as the app that I'll be adding. So I have to choose the APK for this particular app. So Z Delivery, I'll be adding it now. As you can see, the bundle identifier and the app versions have automatically been filled. I will be selecting the app category and the devices that it is supported on. We can also provide a small description if necessary and a display image for the icon. So I am selecting this image for my display. So once this is done, I can save this particular app to be added to my repository. I can continue with the distribution of this particular app as I had done in the case of VPP. So I can distribute this to multiple devices at once. But what if I need to update this app now? So for that, all I need to do is under Actions, click on Modify App and change the APK source. So I'll click on the new APK that I have and click on open. So as you can see, the app version has changed from 1 to 2. Once this is done, I have to click on save and distribute this app to my devices again. So this brings us to the next topic of today. How can you lock corporate devices to specific apps? So in this case, this becomes important when you're using your mobile devices as POS services. So we will be using the kiosk mode functionality to provision these devices as with either a single app or multiple apps. We will also be using this kiosk mode to configure the device settings so that the user may not change it on a later day. So let me give you a scenario that will help you understand this case better. So let's say my organization has a logistic wing which has one supervisor and multiple drivers. So the supervisor needs only one app to keep a track of all the logistics booking, whereas the driver needs to have two apps. One of the apps will help them choose the bookings that are applicable to them, and the other will help them navigate accurately to the required destination. So this is the case in which we will be using kiosk mode. So how does this kiosk mode work? So what we will be doing is on our console, going to profiles and creating a kiosk profile for both my supervisors and my drivers. So I click on create profile and I'll be creating an Android profile in this case. So this profile is for my supervisor. So I'm calling it the kiosk supervisor profile. So once I click on continue, I can add this profile. So as you can see, here are a list of all the profiles that you can apply to Android devices. So I click on the kiosk mode, and here the kiosk mode option must be on single app since the supervisor's device requires only one app to be provisioned in it. And the app that I will be using is Z Delivery. So I have selected this app here. These are the device restrictions that we can configure for the particular device we are adding this kiosk mode to. So once we have made the required changes, we can click on save and publish this particular profile. My next step would be to create a similar profile for my drivers. So I go back to create profile and go to Android. Again, I will name it as drivers profile and click on continue. As I already told you, my drivers will be needing two apps. So in this case, I will have to select the multiple app option. So here they will need the Z Delivery app for their logistics booking and also a Google map for checking if they're going to the right destination. So I have added the Google Maps app as well. So here in this case, the default wallpaper would be the ManageEngine MDM's logo. So in case you want to choose a different wallpaper, you're allowed to do so here. We can also choose to show the MEMDM app that we had distributed for managing these devices. Again, we have this set of restrictions that we can control. In addition to these restrictions, we also have a few custom settings that we can modify. So we will have to know if we want the user to be able to modify the Wi-Fi settings, the brightness settings, or screen rotation. So once again, if you've made the required changes, save and publish the profile. So once the profiles have been created and published, our next step is to distribute it to our groups. So I go back to groups and devices and click on the drivers group. I click on action and associate this profile to the users. So kiosk drivers, and I'm going to select it. So once this is done, this profile has been associated with my drivers. Similarly, I can click on supervisors and under actions, associate the profile and distribute it to them as well. So, supervisor and OK. So once this is done, let me show you what happens to their devices. So this is the supervisor's device in this case. So as you can see, this is the only app that will be available on this particular device. the supervisor will not be able to come out of this particular app. Whereas in the case of the driver's device, they will be allowed to move between the Z Delivery and the Google Maps app. As I had told you, this is the default wallpaper that will be available. So my next question would be, what if my supervisor needs to know all the locations that have been traversed by my driver over a period of time? So we have a location history feature available in Mobile Device Manager Plus that will allow my supervisor to track my drivers and their location. So let me show you how the supervisor will be able to view the driver's screen. So for that, I need to go to the inventory section where I have all the details about the devices that I have added to my server. So I will go to this device, Johnny Samson. So if I click on geo tracking, I will be able to view the most recent location of this particular user. To view the history of their location, I can click on location history and view the history for the previous days. So as you can see, I can see where all the driver has been and see as an IT administrator as well. So how do I do a particular set of settings that will help me achieve this? So for that, under inventory settings, we need to go to geo tracking. So we have a couple of settings here that need to be enabled. So under track devices, you need to be always tracking these devices to know their location. We can apply this geo-tracking feature to either all of the devices in my organization or only a selected group. So in my case, I need to track only my drivers. So I will choose the drivers group to be added. I'm going to browse and select drivers. So now, my location history. So this has to be enabled since I want to view the list of places that they have been. The save location history on moving option, I'm keeping it as a default 500 meters. If you're planning to reduce it to 100 meters, we need to remember that it will affect the battery performance. So once I save these changes, I will be able to view the location history of my devices. So my next thing that appears in my task list is that there is a problem with one of the kiosk device and I need to fix it. This might become a problem for me when I realize that the driver is not a technical person and I will have to guide him with what is to be done. So to make this simple, we have a remote control feature available in Mobile Device Manager Plus that helps us remotely troubleshoot any problems that appear on the device. So how do we set up this remote control? So we go back to device management and under remote control section, we will have a list of all the devices for which we can remotely control or view these devices. So once I click on remote control, the user will be asked to initiate this remote troubleshooting session from their end. So once they initiate it, this will start a support session on my server. So once I have connected securely with my device, I will be able to view their screen and control it from my end in the case of Samsung devices. So as you can see, this device is in kiosk mode, and to finalize what my issue is, I need to bring it out of my kiosk mode. To do that, I will tap rapidly on the top of the screen. So once I do that, I will be asked to enter a passcode to exit kiosk mode. This password is only available to the IT administrator who has access to the server. So once I have entered the passcode, I can click on OK and bring the device out of kiosk mode. So now I can go ahead, find the problem by clicking on settings and see what is creating the problem of battery drainage in my devices. Once I have troubleshooted this problem, I need to ensure that this device goes back into kiosk mode for further duration. So I will pull down the notification bar and click on enter kiosk mode. Once I do that, my device will be put back into kiosk mode and I can end my remote session. So the third topic of today is content management. Content management allows us to easily and securely distribute updated corporate documents to multiple devices. It also allows us to provide role-based access where we can ensure that the right documents are distributed to the right devices. We will also be ensuring that the end users view and store these documents only in the MDM app. The next thing would be we can also prevent unauthorized data sharing to third-party cloud services. So let me show you how content management works on MDM console. So we'll go back to our console and click on content management. So here, this is our document repository. So my scenario in this case is that my sales team needs an access to confidential documents prior to an important client meeting. That's why I need to make these documents available immediately on their devices as they are not available at office right now. So all I have to do is add this app to my repository and distribute it from here. So I can click on add and search for the document that I want to distribute. So I'm going to distribute this POC and click on open. Once this document has been added to my repository, I can provide a small description if necessary and also add tags to categorize these apps according to the department or region that they belong to. So since this is supposed to go to my sales department, I'm going to create a sales tag and add it. Once I click on done, this document gets added to my repository. My next step again would be to share this to my users. So I will select the document that I want to share and click on share. So I have my sales department available here. I will select them and send this document over to them. So now on this document screen, as you can see, we will be clicking on MeMDM app and clicking on the app catalog. Once we do that, in the documents section, we can view the POC file available here. So this is the download button. Once clicked, will download this particular document onto the MeMDM app. The users can view this document offline as well after this. So my next situation is that there are changes to my terms and conditions in this particular document that I had distributed. Now I have to update this document on the end user's device. So to do that, all I need to do is go back and upload the POC file properly. So once I select the POC, under actions, I can click on modify. I will remove the old document that I added and choose another document that is to be updated. So I have added this updated POC here and I click on modify. Once you modify the documents on the app repository, the documents get automatically updated on the user's device. Once I click on OK, this becomes the POC updated and it gets updated on the end user's device as well. So one of the most important questions when we make use of mobile devices is how can we protect these devices from data breach and ensure compliance. So there are various cases or situations where the data can be breached from the device. So the first one is that unmanaged device get access to corporate emails. It is very important that we keep our corporate email accounts secure because most of the confidential information is available on these emails. Therefore, we need to ensure that unmanaged devices do not get access to our Exchange server. For that, we have an option, conditional Exchange access available. So what this conditional Exchange access does is it restricts unmanaged devices from accessing our Exchange server and provides access only to the devices that we are managing and are enrolled in our MDM server. So what are the prerequisites that are required for setting up this conditional Exchange access? The first is we need to have our Active Directory configured. The next is we need to enable self-enrollment. I will tell you why this is an important step. The third, if the user is making use of Windows Server 2010, they need to enable basic authentication in their machine. So how does conditional exchange access work? Here, firstly, we will be integrating our exchange server with the MDM server. Then we will enforce a conditional exchange policy on this server to ensure that only the managed MDM devices get access to exchange. So let me show you how we can perform these steps on our console. So on our console, under device management, we click on conditional exchange access. So here we need to select the exchange host type. So we can either choose Office 365 or Exchange on premises. So in my case, I will be making use of Exchange Online. So once I select Exchange Online, the server name gets automatically filled. I can enter the username and the password and click on Next. So this will integrate our Exchange server with this particular MDM server. So once that is done, we will have an idea of the number of devices that are accessing our Exchange server. In this case, we have 11 devices that are accessing our Exchange server. But all of these devices have not been enrolled with MDM. So I will be applying an exchange policy now to ensure that these devices do not have access to my Exchange server. So I click on Configure now. And under Restrict, I have an option to restrict either all the devices that have not been enrolled with MDM or only specific devices which are not. Also, let's say, since this is a corporate account, it becomes important that the user can perform their daily activities without any problem, even after applying this policy. So if they're not enrolled with MDM, their exchange access will be revoked. So this way, they will not be able to perform their routine corporate tasks. That is why I will be allowing them a grace period of 3 days where they will be notified that if they do not enroll their devices, their access will be revoked. During this grace period, they will have complete access to the Exchange server. So here is where self-enrollment plays an important role. So as an IT administrator, I cannot come back and keep enrolling every user's device. That is why I will let them enroll their devices automatically using self-enrollment that was discussed in the previous segment as well. So once I click on Apply Policy, this policy gets applied successfully on my device. So what happens now is on my console, I will be able to view the number of devices that are in grace period and the restricted devices as well. So let me tell you what happens once this policy has been applied. So once this policy has been applied, any device that is accessing Exchange server will be checked if it is enrolled with MDM. So in case it is enrolled with MDM, it will have complete access to the Exchange server. But if it is not enrolled with MDM, we will check if it was one of the devices that was accessing Exchange even before the policy was applied. If that is the case, if that is not the case, only the default access level would be chosen and only that much access will be provided to the user. But if it was an existing device, we will check if a grace period was provided in the policy. If the grace period has been provided, then the user can access Exchange server during this period. Once the grace period expires, the access to Exchange is revoked from the user. So, my next situation of data breach is when unauthorized data is being shared between unmanaged and managed apps. So, managed apps are the ones that we have distributed from the MDM server and they are being managed, whereas unmanaged apps are the ones that the user installs on his own. So, we never know from which source the user has installed these apps and they might pose as a hazard in case of our data security. The other scenario for data breach is unauthorized sharing of corporate data between devices. All of us have shared images of documents to another device when necessary. We've also airdropped these documents to another device. So all of these cases becomes a problem when the device that we are sending this data to is unmanaged. Another situation of data breach is when corporate data gets backed up on third-party cloud services. Our corporate data is confidential and cannot be made use by a third person, and that is why it is generally restricted that these data remain on the device and not on any of the cloud services. So to take care of all these three data breach scenarios, we will be making use of the containerization feature. Containerization is nothing but the isolation of the personal and our corporate apps. So here, we will ensure that there is a logical container within the device that segregates our personal and corporate apps. This way, there will be no communication between the personal and corporate app. So containerization is taken care automatically in the Android devices with the help of work profile. So as I was telling you before, that when we install an app from the MDM server, a work profile gets created. This work profile has all the apps installed in it and itself acts as a logical container. So there will be no communication between the apps inside of the work profile and the ones outside, thus restricting overall data sharing between the personal and corporate apps. Whereas in the case of iOS devices, there is no such restriction available. And therefore, Mobile Device Manager Plus allows us to apply a set of restrictions that will help us create this logical container on the device. So I will be going back to my console and showing you how you can apply these restrictions. So under Profiles, you can create a profile for iOS devices. So since this will help me create a container, I'm naming it as container. So I will be going to the restrictions section, and the first thing I will be restricting is AirDrop, as this is the simplest method of sharing documents or images from our devices. I will also be restricting screenshots and screen recording. After this, in case you want to restrict any other feature, you can go ahead and do that. The next feature that I will be restricting is sharing of data between managed and unmanaged app. That way, we will prevent communication between the corporate and the personal app. Also, the other way around communication also has to be restricted to ensure that there is no malware that enters our managed apps. Once this is done, I can also go to network and roaming and disable the users to modify their Bluetooth account. Also, as I said, third-party cloud backup should also be restricted. So I will be restricting device backup also here. So once we are done with this, we can click on Save, publish this profile, and distribute it to all the iOS devices in my organization. So what happens when this container gets applied to the devices? Before the container gets applied, as you can see, I am trying to open an email attachment in this device. I have an option to airdrop this email attachment to another device, open it using personal apps or my corporate apps. But once I have applied my profile with the containerization policy, all of these policies will be revoked. So as you can see here in the after policy, you'll be able to see that the airdrop and the personal apps option has been revoked. So the final segment of today would be securing our devices. So a lot of organizations provide corporate devices to their users to make use of. But what if the end users ends up misplacing or losing this corporate device? So this can become a big problem if you have a lot of corporate data available on your device. So for this, we have a set of security commands that will help you locate your lost device or at least save the data present in it. So I will go back to my console and click on the inventory section. So once I do that, I will select a device which I have lost. So once I click on the device, I go to the Actions tab, and the first thing that I do is I try to locate this device. So if I go to the geo tracking, I will have the view of where the device is. So in case this device is somewhere in my vicinity, under Actions, I can go and search for it. Otherwise, The other option that I have in case I lose this device is to enable lost mode. So what lost mode does is it locks this device on this particular screen with the contact details. So if anybody finds this device, they will be able to call us back and inform us of the location. So we can provide the number of this for this particular device and click on next. So when my end user has lost his device, I have raised a ticket for it. So I can choose to provide a ticket ID and message. So once I click on locate, this device will be put into lost mode and the nearest location of this device will be pinged again. Additionally, we can also lock this device to ensure that a person who has access should not be able to unauthorizedly access this device. So I go back to remote lock and lock this screen with the phone number and lock message. But now I have waited for a couple of days and I still have not got the device back. So in that case, I need to ensure that at least my data is safe on this device. So I go to action and I click on either, I have two options here. I can either completely wipe the device or I can perform a corporate wipe. So in the case of complete wipe, the entire device will be wiped and restored to the factory setting. This involves all the corporate information, the personal information, and any accounts that you have added to this device. Whereas in the case of corporate wipe, only the corporate data with the corporate accounts will be removed from the device. Your personal data will be untouched. So once you have done that, you can at least ensure that the data in your devices is safe. So as I was telling you, a device in lost mode will look like this. So here we have in call option, which will automatically call only the number that we have provided in the lost mode option. So now this brings us to our scenarios and solutions. So my first scenario is my organization has provided full internet access and no restriction on any web resource to the employees. How can I restrict specific websites without affecting the usual internet traffic? So for this, we have a feature called web content filtering, which is available in the profile section. So I go to profiles and create an iOS profile. So here, as you can see here, we have an option of web content filtering. So in case you want to blacklist a certain application or web content, you can click on blacklist and enter the URL of the page that you want to restrict. So here I will be restricting YouTube. So once that is done, I can add as many pages that I want to restrict. So once I have done that, I can click on save, publish and distribute this particular profile to the devices. My next scenario is, as my workforce is extensively mobile only, we want to secure devices with certificates. Can this be done using Mobile Device Manager Plus? Mobile Device Manager Plus definitely supports certificate authentication. So in case you want only one certificate for securing all the devices, you can click on the certificate option available here and select the certificate. So these are the details that I have added. So all the devices in my organization will be secured with this particular certificate. But we also have an option where you can apply a different certificate to different devices. So for that, we have to click on SCEP and provide all the details. Here, we will be integrating with the certificate authority and providing certificate for each device in your organization to which you're applying this profile. My next question is, my enterprise network bandwidth gets affected when several employees try to update their operating systems simultaneously. How can I prevent this in the case of Android devices? So for Android devices, I will go back and create a new profile. So I'm going back to create profile. And here I will be going and creating a new profile. So I'll go back to device management and click on profiles. Create profile and Android profile. So once I have selected, I will go to restrictions And here we have an option called OS upgrade. So once we restrict OS upgrade, the devices will not be able to upgrade their operating systems. My next scenario, I want to ensure that all the network communication taking place on the device is routed through a secure proxy. Can this be done? Yes, we have an option where we can configure a global HTTP proxy. This will ensure that all the traffic in and out of the device is routed through this particular proxy. You can provide all the details here to set up this proxy. So this brings us to the final segment of today's session, where I will be discussing the questions that were asked during my training session. So the first question was, we are a logistics company and we provide devices to our drivers for tracking purposes. Is there a way by which the users cannot disable the location services and it is always enabled? Definitely, we have an option that allows you to do that. So in this case, you will go back to restrictions and under location services, ensure that this GPS is always on. Once you do that, you can ensure that the location services are always on your devices. Is it possible to prevent copying text from emails? We definitely prevent copying text on devices. For that, you will have to go to the security section and disable clipboard. So this way, you can ensure that no text gets copied anywhere on the device. My next question. I want to ensure employee devices are connected to only those secure Wi-Fi networks distributed via MDM. Can this be achieved? We can definitely restrict the devices to be connected only to the Wi-Fi that we have distributed. So for that, we have to go to network and roaming, and under Wi-Fi option, select this option, connect to Wi-Fi only if distributed via MDM. So I'm going to enable this option. I need to ensure that I have set the right Wi-Fi profile before I distribute this particular profile to my devices. Otherwise, my Wi-Fi will not be able to be connected on the device and I'll not be able to manage my users. So once I click on OK, this profile will be created. My next question is, can I restrict the users from uninstalling the IT approved apps that were installed using MDM? So we can restrict the users from uninstalling apps on their devices. So you can go to the application section and restrict users from uninstalling apps. My next question is, can I remove the apps that were previously available on the devices? These are the apps that were not installed using MDM. So we can also restrict these apps from being present on the device. For that, we have to go to the inventory section and click on the apps option available here. This has a list of all the apps that are available in my network. So if I say want to restrict Google Play Store, I can select that particular app and click as mark as blacklist. So these are all the functionalities that will happen for the various devices. So this brings us to the end of our training session. If you found this training session to be informative, please rate us on a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is the best. If you liked our presentation, please do spread a word on various platforms of social service. The next training session is on 1st and 8th of February 2018, the same time. Thank you and have a great day.